You're just a stranger.
It's very late.
Yet, here you are, right in the middle of it all. Ooh. Stranger fucking danger.
Saltburn is the beautifully shot and edited second feature by Emerald Fennell. My previous video on Saltburn praises the editing and the performances in the film. I want to talk to you about Saltburn's screenplay. The 2-hour and 10-minute film really attempts to take you down a path before pulling the rug from under your feet, right at the end. Unfortunately though, it pulls the rug from under its own feet. Because what seemed like a tight and taut exploration of class, race, and sex soon becomes a farce worthy of a Scooby-Doo episode.
I gotta hand it to you kids, finding that missing armored car after all these years. But who are these two?
Don't you recognize them, Sheriff?
Why, it's Zeb and Zeke.
They were the ones that hijacked the armored car and sunk it in the swamp.
But you see, the problem isn't actually the end in itself.
Oliver. Elspeth.
The problem is the script.
What? Is there really ever such thing as an accident, Elspeth?
Let's break this down and thoroughly analyse it. And to do so, I'll be referring to the Matt Damon and Jude Law 1998 film, The Talented Mr. Ripley, as a comparison, as both films are very similar.
Oh, nice tux.
Thank you.
Wow, it's a rental, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Act 1, we meet our protagonist, Ollie. He seems like an introverted poor kid who just can't blend in with anyone.
Look around you. It's just me and you, mate. And the girl who's got agoraphobia, but she's in her room.
Until he begins to idolise Felix, and thusly they form a friendship. It is inferred in the flashback sequence at the end of the film that Ollie targeted Felix as to put in play a master plan to take his life and thusly his wealth. But from here, we have the first issue. In its very nature, the core of the story is in his infatuation with Felix from afar, and from afar, he knows nothing of his wealth nor his status. I mean, Felix could have well been there on a scholarship himself. So, with that being the case, how would he know to target Felix exclusively? Of course, he could have done research beforehand, but that, again, how would he research that one specific student out of maybe 1,000 students?
Here, chill up, yeah? Oh, sorry, are you with friends?
No, they've just left.
You won't believe it.
So, what college are you in, mate?
You literally just stop.
Yours?
Oh, right, and what are you studying?
It really makes no sense. Now, in The Talented Mr. Ripley, which again is a very similar film, we see that Tom Ripley idolizes Dickie Greenleaf. He wants everything he has. He immediately identifies his wealth, his looks, and his partner, to the point where he even begins to embody his looks and his mannerisms.
Look at it then.
Dickie Greenleaf?
Who's that?
It's Tom. Tom Ripley.
Tom Ripley?
We were at Princeton together.
Okay. Did we know each other?
Hello. Well, I knew you, so I suppose you must have known me.
Princeton's like a fog.
With Saltburn, we get none of those nuances. In fact, when you look at the opening act, retrospectively, this is where the main problem in the film comes. The problem with the ending could have been solved by actually making his actions more overt at the beginning. Of course, we'd lose the twist at the end, but it would have been a far more satisfying journey. And quite frankly, we didn't need the twist.
Ollie, what's happened?
Hey, come here.
In the second act, Ollie meets Felix's parents and stays at their estate. Slowly but surely he begins to manipulate his family mentally.
Oh, thank goodness for you, Oliver. You're so perceptive.
And sexually. in a couple of scenes that seemed like they were there for more shock value than anything else, one involving bathwater and the other a woman's blood, they both feel unnecessary, but they really do add to the film's charm. So we can forgive those particular scenes. However, the most important scene we have in this act, and almost narratively the most important scene in the film, is when it's revealed that Ollie actually isn't Paul and has been lying to Felix all along.
Hey, come here. How did it happen?
Cracked his head on the pavement. Probably drunk.
In Act 1, in an earlier scene, we get to see that Ollie apparently cannot pay for a round of drinks with his university friends. Now, in the twist, it's shown that he actually does have money in his wallet. Again, this doesn't really make any sense. How would Felix know that he can't afford it, and why would Felix go over to pay for it? It really makes no sense. I mean, what would have happened if Felix didn't go over there? It doesn't make any sense. But this scene is very pivotal in so many ways, but most importantly, it shows us that we can definitely not trust our narrator and our protagonist. He's unreliable, and it shows us that he may have other motives.
Oh, yeah.
Uncle, what do you mean? I've got these horrible migraines.
Well, why don't you lie down upstairs, darling? I made your bed up in case you wanted to stay.
Now, this scene is great, but from a screenplay standpoint, it really kills the film dead.
Of course we can stay. We would love to stay. Ollie, just take a pill or something, for Christ's sake.
At this stage, we can no longer feel anything positive for Ollie, because just like Felix, we feel betrayed. Nothing he does or says from now on will have any impact on us. And as watching it, that's exactly how I felt. I tapped out with Ollie at this point. The scene happens far too early in the film. It feels like it should happen in Act 3. In The Talented Mr. Ripley, because we all know from the offset that we can't trust Tom Ripley, we know that his actions are reliable, and we're just waiting to see if he'll succeed or fail in his actions.
You gotta hear this.
He doesn't lie to us. He lies to the various characters around him, but never to us. The worst thing you can do is lie to your audience.
Vicky.
Oh, God!
And if you do lie to your audience, it needs to be in Act 3, or just at the end of your screenplay. However, it should be said that this is also a risky strategy. The worst case of this was in the 80s TV show Dallas, when in season 9, after 31 episodes, where deception, derision, and deaths had taken place, it was revealed that it was all a dream in a character's head. Now, naturally, there was an uproar from many disgruntled viewers. You risk lying to your audience at your peril.
I was so Oh, I love you so much.
It's over. None of that happened.
The third act is where everything unravels and the film trips itself up.
Hello, Farley.
How did you know it was me?
Because we already know our climax when we met Ollie's very lovely parents, we're now clawing into the grave of shocking endings to try and save the film. None of the scenes in Act 3 make any sense. Felix's death, Felix's sister's death. Why would Duncan, the family butler, have such little consequence in the plot from Act 2 to Act 3? Why would the dad pay Ollie off instead of just calling the police?
You're going to jail. You're going to jail.
How did Ollie know that the mum frequented the same coffee shop?
Oliver.
Elspeth.
If he did, maybe we should be told that information? This is why having a shock twist ending can sometimes trip you up.
Who better to lead us into the future?
Bran has no interest in ruling, and he can't father children.
Good.
And of course, then we have this very silly Scooby-Doo ending where Ollie has killed off the whole family and taken their wealth by laying the foundations for these haphazard outcomes in Act 1 and 2. We maybe wouldn't have gone along with the journey but it would have been a smoother journey. Now, remember when you were a kid and you didn't want to eat your food, so your siblings or your parents would pretend that the spoon was an airplane. Act 3 in Saltburn is like the equivalent of your parent or your sibling wrenching your mouth open and shoving the spoon down your throat. Also, from a subtext and message standpoint in the screenplay, what does the ending actually say to us? Murdering a family and taking their wealth is cool? Now, we understood that the parents weren't the best parents ever. The mother was too obsessed with looks.
God, I haven't heard this song in forever. I used to hang out with them all, actually, when I was modelling. No, she is rather dull, actually, but she's so beautiful. You have to admit, she's very beautiful. Oliver, I have a complete and utter horror of ugliness. Ever since I was very young. I don't know why.
And the dad was vacant mentally. They maybe had too much wealth, but they weren't bad people to the point where we want them to be murdered and plunged. The talented Mr. Ripley ends with an incredible sequence where Tom, having got away with murder and now slightly more rich, can barely live with his actions. And he's left alone with his loneliness, and ultimately, our sociopath murderer wins, but he doesn't win. In Saltburn, we get this. I'm not really sure what to make of this. But what have I learned? What is being said here? What societal analogy is being relayed? I would say nothing. I mean, Emerald Fennell comes from a very wealthy background, so maybe she's saying something about her own guilt. Maybe she's not. It's very unclear. I would say in a screenplay, your underlying message can be left unsaid. It can be inferred. In fact, it's almost recommended. Let the audience come to their own conclusions. It will vary from person to person based on their own life experience. But I feel that Saltburn doesn't connect the dots throughout its runtime for you to even care enough to want to think about what the message could be. And ultimately, it falls short of the brilliance of the talented Mr. Ripley. Now, the easy fixes here would come from the outset of the film. In Act 1, now just imagine we knew what Ollie was up to, even if we knew the very basic intentions. And then we could follow along and not feel lied to by what happens in Act 2 when we meet his parents. In fact, we should meet his parents in Act 3. It should be the very last scene of the film. He goes home to his parents alone after murdering a whole ass family. You know, I still can't believe I'm actually saying that. A whole ass family. How did he murder a whole ass family? How is that even possible? I mean, if you kill one person and get away with it, then wow, that's amazing. You kill 2 people and get away with it, wow. 3 people he killed. 3. Just think about that. Mother, brother, sister, killed them all. Come on! But he goes home to his lovely parents, and upon meeting his normal, middle-class family, we are left to think, what made this psychopath do any of the actions we'd seen in the past 2 hours and 10 minutes? Now that is a far better ending, and it juxtaposes the divide in class perfectly. Now, Saltburn is a good film. I really like how it takes such massive swings, and although it misses a lot of them, the class, the confidence, and the filmmaking shown by Fennell allows me to forgive the missed swings. Her debut feature, Promising Young Woman, had similar issues with its ending, but it was a better narrative. Soon, in the near future, she's going to make a film where she takes some big swings and hits with every one of them. She is a fiercely talented writer and director, and her future is bright. So based on my first video about the editing of Saltburn, a lot of the criticisms came down to the narrative. And I feel that narrative is a hugely overlooked element of filmmaking nowadays. There are loads of technological advancements. The CGIs now have things like the volume. We have different genders within filmmaking. We have wonderfully talented, new diverse filmmakers. But what we're lacking nowadays is narrative. And the simple 3-act structure is not being adhered to. The hero's journey is not being adhered to. And people seem to be obsessed with anti-heroes. Characters like Walter White and the Joker, whilst being hugely successful over the years, have led everyone to believe that the anti-hero is the way forward. And whilst an anti-hero can be a magnificent way to tell a story, the basics always win out. What do you think? Do you think Saltburn has a narrative issue? Did you enjoy Saltburn? A few people didn't enjoy the editing. Do you think the editing is overrated? Do you think the lighting and the performances are overrated? What are your general thoughts on Saltburn? And do you think that maybe by us knowing Ollie's intentions at the beginning of the film would be better? We can remove the twist. We can have him meet his parents at the end. Do let me know in the comments. If you like the video, please do hit the like button. It really helps with the algorithm, helps the channel to grow, which allows me to make more videos. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. I would love you to subscribe. If you're subscribed already, thank you so much. Huge love to you. And until we speak again, big love.